GE, clean nose, healthy life.
With all the sports we have, every time of the year is the best time of the year.
And the crowd just buzzing with excitement.
On 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Tuesday edition of Game Night, getting you ready for a busy sports evening. Phillies back in action, taking on the Brewers tonight. They're out in Milwaukee. Phillies made a couple of roster adjustments. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Also tonight, Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, Rangers and Lightning. Western Conference is done thanks to the Avs surviving in Edmonton. That was a crazy game last night. And, I got to give a lot of credit to the Turner broadcast crew because I thought that for their first year doing this, I thought that they've evolved and grown a lot from the way they were to start the season, which was very cringeworthy, to the smooth operation that they became during these playoffs. So, but their season is done. Western Conference Finals are done. The Colorado Avalanche return to the Stanley Cup Finals, and they will await the winners of the Rangers and the Lightning, which you can hear tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30 right here on 97.3 ESPN. And we're going to talk a little hockey today because the Flyers head coaching search just got a huge curveball last night because the Boston Bruins fired their head coach Cassidy in a move that the whole world is still scratching their heads over. And now you put Cassidy, Vigneault, Tortorella, Trotz, 4 guys who have all won the Coach of the Year award or either been in the top 3 in the voting in the last several years. You have a bunch of guys who are all considered to be the best coaches in the NHL in the last several years, and they're all free agents. So this is going to be a very, very interesting offseason. So I tapped in to my guy over at SiriusXM NHL Radio, one of their hosts, Scott Laughlin. He's talking hockey 24/7, 365. We'll get his thoughts on the head coaching carousel, who may actually land in Philadelphia, the game tonight between the Rangers and the Lightning. And I want to get his reaction to the news we talked about yesterday with the ratings exploding for hockey. Hockey viewership is up big time in these playoffs compared to what it was in the last few years. So we'll get his thoughts on all that coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. But first, we got to get to the Phillies news because the Phillies had to make some roster moves today, and it's all ahead of their series tonight with the Milwaukee Brewers. 3-game set over there in Milwaukee to take on the Brew Crew, and the moves are not insignificant, okay? Now, the lineup tonight should have kind of given you a hint of what's going on because Bryson Stott is starting at second, and Mickey Moniak is in center field. Now, the relevance of this should not go ignored because the Phillies had to make a move today because of Camargo. So, Johan Camargo was going on to the 10-day injured list with a right knee strain, as they're calling it. Now, Zach Wheeler is going on the paternity list. Him and his wife had a child. Congratulations to him, by the way. So, they won't be seen in a Phillies uniform for a few days. And according to reports, him and Kyle Gibson are swapping starts now. So what's going to happen now is Wheeler's start is basically be pushed back so he can spend some time with his wife after the birth of the new child. Gibson's going to swap spots with him because remember, the Phillies' off day was yesterday. They don't have an off day between leaving Milwaukee Saturday late afternoon, coming back to Philadelphia for a 3-game set in Philadelphia. So, according to reports, Wheeler will start Saturday. Gibson will start Friday. So, but tonight, the Phillies are back in action. No Camargo. He's going to be out for a while. Interestingly enough, the Phillies have called Matt Vierling from AAA along with Scott Kingery. Now, Scott Kingery is playing pretty poorly down in the minor leagues. So I feel like this is more of a he's there for a versatile guy than anything else. Vierling's actually been playing well since he got sent down about almost what feels like forever ago at this point. You know, I've seen that Vierling commercial almost every day with him talking about, you know, that car service that helps you if you're, you know, basically gives you insurance if something happens to your car, so you don't have to, like, you know, pay out of pocket for like repair fees and stuff. I don't know how he got that gig. I wish I had his agent, because apparently you can get a legitimate paying advertising gig and not be a very good Major League Baseball player. It's incredible. But him and Scott Kingery are coming up. And here's why I wanted to bring this up, because the Phillies are going to have to show during this Brewers series that the series against the Angels was not a fluke. You know, today the Angels fired their manager, Joe Maddon. The same Joe Maddon that took the Rays to the World Series back in 2008. Same Joe Maddon that won the World Series with the Cubs in 2016. 12-game losing streak, and the Phillies were a part of that 12-day stretch of losing. And you have a situation where Joe Maddon, he's out. Phil Nevin is the interim manager. And so did the Phillies, again, I asked this question yesterday, I'll ask it again today. Did the Phillies beat the Angels 3 straight because the Angels are playing bad, or because the Phillies found their mojo after firing their manager? There's a possibility it might be both. So we're going to find out in this Brewers series, you know, what the deal is. Now, the good news is they don't have to face one of the Brewers' best pitchers, Lauer, in this series. The bad news is they still have to face Hauser and Burns. Tonight they got Jason Alexander, but you got Suarez going tonight. So the rotation matchups line up more so, in my opinion, in Milwaukee's favor, the pitching matchups, than the Phillies' favor. This is not a mismatch for the, you know, in the favor of the Phillies. So we're going to find out how legitimate the Phillies lineup is in this series, because the strength of the Brewers when it comes to their pitching is their starters and their closer. Their in-between is all right. They're not great. So if you can find a way to get the starters out of the game early tonight, get Alexander out early, get to the bullpen early, you might be able to set a tone for the rest of the series where Milwaukee is playing with a shorthanded deck. But ultimately, the Phillies got to show that they can win in this series. I'm not saying they have to win 2 out of 3, although that would be ideal, but you got to win at least one of these next 2 games, so that when you go into Thursday afternoon's game against the reigning Cy Young Award winner, you say, look, we've already beat this team once. We have confidence. We have our mojo. We have our belief in ourselves, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be a very interesting series, because then you got to leave Milwaukee after this afternoon game on Thursday, come back to Philadelphia for a 3-game set with Arizona, who's ahead of you in the wild card standings. And in that series, you have to get 2 out of 3 against a team that most people consider mediocre, right? Because after that, you got the Marlins coming to town. And that's where you got to exercise those demons. The Marlins are a team that has haunted you for a long time. And you got no Zach Wheeler for the Brewers series. No Zach Wheeler, it looks like, because him and Gibson are swapping spots because he's on paternity leave. No Wheeler, prospectively, for the Marlins series either, because I'm assuming if Wheeler and Gibson are swapping their spots for the Arizona series, that they're going to swap the same spot for the games next week. So Wheeler, before the paternity leave announcement, was scheduled to pitch this Friday and next Wednesday. Well, now I'm assuming with the Gibson squad, he's going to pitch Saturday and then next Thursday. That way you give Wheeler his full term of rest. So a lot of things to keep an eye on here with the Phillies. in this series with the Brewers. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. You can text into the show at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. As mentioned, we're going to talk some hockey coming up in less than 10 minutes with Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio. He's the morning show host over there. And I'm sure that he had a very interesting morning wake-up call today because that Butch Cassidy news when he was fired as the Bruins head coach last night was massive because this is a guy in Cassidy who is considered by most to be one of the top coaches in the league. And he now joins a list of people who are available, who are all supposedly some of the best coaches available in basketball. And there's a bunch of openings, and the Flyers are one of them. And if we're being completely objective, the Flyers are probably the fourth best opening out there. Here's the breakdown of the openings. The best opening is probably a coin flip between Boston and Vegas. And it really depends on, what you think of each job, right? Both situations are very tight when it comes to the salary cap. Like you've heard us talk about the Flyers having salary cap, not a lot of flexibility. Well, the Flyers have more salary cap than both Boston and Vegas. But both Boston and Vegas are perceived as turnkey situations, right? They're perceived as situations where they're win now rosters with win now players and win now organizations. They're not looking to rebuild. So for a coach like Barry Trotz, okay, or a John Tortorella, or some of these other guys who are available, those jobs look very appealing. But Barry Trotz is the guy that everyone is waiting on. He's the number one free agent, if you want to call it, of the coaches. Not just because of his coaching success, not just because he's won a cup, but because Trotz is a guy that everywhere he's been, from Nashville to Washington to the Islanders, every situation he's walked into, he's made the situation better. He's elevated their circumstances. He's made those teams be able to be more than they are. So the theory with Trotz is he's a guy who will come to your organization and will automatically make you better. The issue is there's a lot of reports out there that Barry Trotz doesn't want to coach a lot longer. He's not an old guy, but apparently, he's got a little fatigue when it comes to the head coaching situation. There's a lot of speculation out there that whatever job he gets next, it's with the idea that he'll eventually move into the front office. Now, the Winnipeg job is not, open because their interim coach, Lowry, is interviewing for the job, but there's a lot of talk he wants Winnipeg. Well, if he goes to Winnipeg, that leaves Vegas and Boston both open for guys like former Flyers head coach Vigneault, a guy like Tortorella, who's on ESPN right now, maybe even a guy like Rick Tocchet, who was on TV this year. Maybe he gets thrown into the conversation. Jim Montgomery is a guy, the former Stars coach, who wasn't fired. He left for health issues. So he was on St. Louis's staff this year with Berube. There's a lot of guys who could be moving around. And the Flyers, if you were to ask me, I would say they're probably the fourth best job. I think that depending on who you ask, and we'll ask Scott Laughlin that's coming up in about 5 minutes, to me, you think about with Bruce Cassidy being fired by the Bruins. Well, if Bruce is out there, he's not going back to Boston. He could come to Philadelphia or he could go to Vegas. I think it'd be a win-win for Bruce either way. And also the Stars job. I think that Dallas is ahead of Philadelphia because I think Dallas has a deeper amount of talent than Philadelphia. Philadelphia has a lot of players who on paper should be good, but they're not all guys that we know for sure what their potential is. I've heard the comment, for example, Barry Melrose was on with Pete Thompson and Billy Schweim a couple weeks ago. ESPN's Barry Melrose, and Melrose talked about how, a guy like Konechny should have been a 30, 40-some goal scorer, 80, 90-point kind of guy by now, and he hasn't become that guy. So, the Flyers have a lot of potential, but what are they in reality? We'll ask all these questions coming up with Scott Laughlin on SiriusXM NHL Radio. Plus, we will get to your guys' thoughts and comments a little bit later this hour. 609-403-0973 is the text board. You also can DM the show through the 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night.
The NBA Finals continue on ESPN Radio.
That one's good. 29 for Curry.
The Warriors respond to a Game 1 defeat with a dominating win in Game 2. Now it's a best-of-5 as the series shifts to Boston.
They are who we thought they were. We knew we had to keep our foot on the gas pedal and not let up, and we did that, and we're able to come out with the win.
Game 3 of the Warriors and Celtics. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio. The NBA Finals, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
The future will be amazing, and that's all well and good. But what about today? You can feel the rush of a 400-horsepower Nissan Z, or climb to new heights in the all-terrain Nissan Frontier. Light up the road in the all-electric Nissan Ariya that feels like a sci-fi dream come true. The future will be great, but today is made for thrill. All you have to do is get in a Nissan and drive. 2023 Ariya and Z not yet available for purchase. Expected availability is this spring for 2023 Z and this fall for 2023 Ariya.
5G is here, but the big carriers want you to sign a pricey long-term contract to get access. Well, not anymore, because Straight Talk Wireless has rolled out 5G coverage nationwide with deals like our Silver Unlimited plan for just $45 a month and no contract. And get a Samsung Galaxy A32 5G for $249, all on America's best networks. 5G coverage, 5G phones, less money. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com.
O'Reilly. Get ready for summer vacation now at O'Reilly Auto Parts with up to a $15 gift card after mail-in rebate when you purchase select Superstar batteries. With the power, performance, and reliability your vehicle demands, Superstar batteries are made to deliver long life and consistent starts. Superstar batteries only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly
Auto Parts. In the past, the conversation around personal mental health has been virtually non-existent. Fortunately, people everywhere are opening up to the idea that talking about our emotions and experiences isn't something to be ashamed of. But even though the narrative is changing, we still live in a world where finding support can be difficult. We knew there had to be a better way to help people take care of themselves and to take the mystery and stigma out of therapy. That's where BetterHelp began. I'm Danny, co-founder of BetterHelp Online Therapy. Our mission is simple. Find a way to make professional therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient for everyone. With BetterHelp, you can connect to a therapist by phone, video call, or even text message. You can contact your therapist when it's convenient for you. And if your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch anytime because BetterHelp is designed with you in mind. See why over 2 million members have trusted BetterHelp for online therapy. Go to betterhelp.com/personalbest and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/personalbest.
The final wing is ahead of schedule.
Slater's Construction Company has built a solid reputation.
Yeah, foundation looks great. Let's get a team in place for analysis.
Now they need structural engineers to support their business expansion.
We should have engineers in-house. That would put us ahead of the competition.
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by conducting interviews on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
No matter the make, no matter the mileage, no matter what you owe, Matt Blatt Kia wants your vehicle today. We need to replenish our inventory, so we need your vehicle, no matter the situation. Even if you're stuck in a loan or a lease, Matt Blatt Kia wants to get you released. Get cash for your car today, even if you don't buy a car from us. But why wouldn't you buy a new vehicle? Because if you have a job and clear $350 per week, Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you today with 0 down and 0 payments for 90 days on any brand new Kia or pre-owned vehicle in stock. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
On approved credit plus applicable taxes and fees. See dealer for details. Not all will qualify. Deferred payment through TFCU. Interest accrues from date of sale. Offers don't combine. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. details. Expires 6/30/22. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Tonight on 97.3 ESPN FM, you can hear Game 4 of the Rangers and Lightning. Coverage begins at 7:30 here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Tomorrow night, Game 3 of the NBA Finals, Celtics and Warriors. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN FM. But we're going to get back into the hockey here because my head is spinning with this NHL head coaching carousel. And the fact that you have another name added to the pool with all these coach openings, one of them being here in Philadelphia, adds a whole new layer of intrigue. And to talk more about it is Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio. You can follow him over on Twitter at Laughlin SXM. And Scott, I'm sure that for your morning show this morning, you guys had a nice little curveball with the Cassidy firing last night.
Well, it's interesting, Josh. Yeah, we had touched on this a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact, and it seemed to be unthinkable at the time that somebody who's done such a great job as Bruce Cassidy had done with Boston, could find himself on the block. And we just said, well, if they lose this series here, which they did against Carolina, who knows? Maybe it's time for a change, because this is a Bruins team right now that's in a period of a little bit of transition at the very least, because Tuukka Rask is gone. We're still waiting to find out about Patrice Bergeron coming off his elbow surgery in a couple of months. He'll make a decision. We also know that Brad Marchand is expected to miss the first couple of months of next season due to hip surgery too. So although there is speculation about David Krejci coming back, there is a little bit of who's coming and who's going and that sort of thing. And ultimately, I think at the end of the day, Josh, despite the fact that he led the team to the playoffs every season, he was behind the bench. He couldn't win Game 7 back in 2019 against the St. Louis Blues, and they have him right there, dead to rights at the TD Garden. But when you look at his record of success, he will be an attractive candidate to a lot of teams out there, probably including the Flyers for sure. And, I look at it, and he was with the Bruins organization for 14 years, 6 years, 6 seasons as the head coach of the Bruins. He was also head coach of the Providence P. Bruins for 8 years as well. So you add that all up, and I think at the end of the day, Josh, 14 years for anybody in one organization is a long, long time. So you start to hear about the messaging and the voice needing to be changed and so on and so forth. So it was not shocking to me, but still nonetheless surprising given his track record.
So with that being said, I'm assuming, basing on everything I've heard and read, Scott, that the two most quote unquote turnkey ready jobs should be Boston and Vegas. So, if Tortorella or Trotz gave you a call right now and said, hey, Scott, should I go to Boston or Vegas? How are you measuring those two destinations?
Oh, that's a great question, Josh. I would probably lean towards Vegas. I know that they've got some uncertainty in terms of the goaltending position. And look, that's really important, and I think that they've got an up-and-coming goaltender who was scratching the surface this season in Logan Thompson, who they like. Robin Leonard's more of a question mark, given some of the surgeries he's had since the season's come to an end. But I think that roster is built to win now. They'll get a full season, Vegas will, of Jack Eichel from training camp onwards. They're going to be a lot healthier next season. They should be in the mix next season. I would probably lean towards Vegas just because of what they've got on their roster. I think with Boston, as I said, there were a lot more in the way of uncertainties when you talk about Patrice Bergeron. Is he going to, in late August, decide that he, in fact, is going to retire and that a few years from now he'll be making a speech at the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto? Brad Marchand, how many months is he going to miss to start? Those are the two best forwards that they've got. So I think from the get-go, whoever's behind the bench in Boston next season is going to be working from a bit of a deficit. So I would lean towards Vegas if I was a free agent coach out there. Boston could have some possibilities again if Marchand comes back and gets back to where he's used to being, and if Patrice Bergeron decides to continue, and if you get that second-line centerman back that they missed this season and David Krejci, things would start to look up. But at least to start the season, Vegas looks a lot more appealing.
So if Vegas is 1, and let's just say, for sake of argument, Boston is 2, does that make Dallas the number 3 destination?
Well, Dallas is intriguing. The only thing about Dallas, I find, Josh, that they've got a veteran-laden roster, right? You've got Miro Heiskanen, who's a young defenseman who's really starting to come into his own. They love their goaltender, obviously, Jake Ottinger. How could you not like what he delivered this season and in that playoff series loss to the Calgary Flames? But then you look at the guys that have led this team for years, right? And Joe Pavelski had a great season, and he's back for one more season after this as well, and he'll start September and see where it's at when it's all said and done. But Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn have lost a lot of tread off their tires. They've been banged up. They played the game hard. So I think there's a bit of a transitionary period going on down there. Jason Robertson is a guy that's going to lead that team for years to come. They just re-upped with Denis Gurianov for another season a little bit earlier today. Rope Hintz is a player, as a power forward who's starting to come into his own. But I think Dallas is leaning towards transition. And I think that if you're a coach, you go in there realizing that it might be a couple of years here where the wheels start to spin a little bit, or maybe you're not getting as much traction as the Dallas Stars have been used to. One situation to me, Josh, that's pretty intriguing is the Florida Panthers, because they won the President's Trophy. Andrew Brunette is up for the Jack Adams Award as the Coach of the Year. He lost out, of course, as we know, to Darryl Sutter, but he was nominated for the award, and that's an achievement in itself, especially given taking over that situation under the most difficult of circumstances when Joel Quenneville was shown the door. They have yet to re-up with Andrew Brunette, despite the fact that he was a Jack Adams nominee. The interim tag never was quite removed. Are the Florida Panthers, the team that was the best team in the regular season, a team that's on the verge of winning and making a long playoff run, much like Colorado in the West has done this time around? Are the Florida Panthers looking at somebody like a Bruce Cassidy now that he's on the market? I really think that they should.
Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right, I want to jump right in. We just brought up Florida because Florida's fascinating, because if Florida also joins the market of coaches, it feels like the entire hockey world is waiting on Trotz to make a decision. But from what I understand, Trotz is also waiting on Winnipeg, right?
Yeah, Barry Trotz has interviewed with Winnipeg. As you know, he's a guy that is from just outside of Winnipeg. So he's a Dauphin, Manitoba guy, and he's got a long history with that city and with that province in particular. Now, are the Winnipeg Jets going to ante up on the term and on the money that it's going to need to lure Barry Trotz in and bring him, back home, so to speak? We'll wait and see. It'll be up to True North, and it'll be up to Mark Chipman and Kevin Cheveldayoff to come at him with the offer that will be an offer that he can't refuse. We know Philadelphia certainly has been interested in Barry Trotz and John Tortorella. I would, like I say, if I were Philadelphia, explore kicking some tires here on Bruce Cassidy now that he's a free agent, although he does have, we should point out, 1 year left on his contract. So he could just do what Tortorella's been doing and go to TV for a season and just take a lay of the land and pick and choose his spot if he wants to coming up next year. But then again, sometimes when you get out, it's hard to get back in. So if I were Philly, I'd look at Bruce Cassidy as well. Barry Trotz, you're right, though. I mean, that's the first domino I think that really needs to fall here to start to slow this coaching carousel down. It continues to spin, and we wait for the shoes to drop. And, there's one name we haven't mentioned as well, Josh. It's a really good name out there. If and when he wants to return, he'll get that opportunity, and that's Paul Maurice, who has done a great job at a number of different stops around the NHL. Very much a player's coach, but a guy who can be a disciplinarian when he has to be. He's just been around forever, and he's had all this experience, and for the most part, he's been a winning coach. I think Paul Maurice is an enticing option for a lot there if and when he wants to get back. Right now, it seems like it's kind of wait and see for him. But again, who knows? In the next couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe there's an offer that knocks his socks off as well before it's all said and done.
Let's get to specifically Philadelphia, because this offseason feels like Chuck Fletcher needs to hire a guy who is going to give himself enough rope to continue to fix what is here in Philadelphia. It's not the most favorable cap situation. I know there's things they can do to kind of, shake the trees. Who's the guy or guys that you think make the most sense as Philadelphia pursues a guy who is going to be the successor to the Vigneault era?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier today, Josh. If I was in my head devising some sort of a list of power rankings as to the available head coaches out there, I would start with Barry Trotz. I mean, you cannot argue with his record.
Right.
He's one of the all-time winningest coaches in the league. Now, there has been some speculation as well with regards to Barry that eventually he wants to take his next coaching position and he wants to jump into front office work at some point. Maybe that'll be worked into a contract for him. I don't really know. But number one for me is Barry Trotz, as we say. I would put Bruce Cassidy into that number 2 slot. And some might raise their eyebrows at that and going, well, John Tortorella interviewed with the Flyers, and John Tortorella's also won a cup, and John Tortorella has won a lot of games in this league, hundreds and hundreds of them, as a matter of fact. I think I would probably, and you can tell what I think of Bruce Cassidy as a head coach here, I would probably have him just behind Barry Trotz. Then I'd probably go John Tortorella. Paul Maurice is out there. We talked off air about Mike Babcock, of course, at some point. Maybe he gets back in. He didn't leave Toronto on the best of terms, and all these backstories came out with the way that he's dealt with players over the years. He's kind of gone into stealth mode the last little bit and coaching at the University of Saskatchewan in his home province going back to this past season. So maybe there's an opportunity for him as well. Detroit's out there looking for a head coach too, and you wonder where they're going to be at because I still think Detroit's a year or two away from getting back to the playoffs. So maybe you need a younger guy there that's going to be allowed to grow with that team a little bit. So number one for me is Barry Trotz. If I'm the Flyers, go and try to get Barry Trotz. That's number one. Number two, Bruce Cassidy. I would make a call to him or to the Bruins to see if you could talk with Bruce about a position as well. And you could do a lot worse than John Tortorella as well. A guy who would add some defensive structure, certainly to a Flyers team that I think really needs it.
One name you didn't mention yet. What is the word out there on Jim Montgomery?
Jim Montgomery is a guy who has come up for a number of positions as well. He is being looked at by a number of teams out there. Montgomery, of course, was pretty open about the fact that he had some challenges away from the rink that he had to take care of and has since come back, of course, in an assistant coaching role too. So there's a guy with some experience down in Dallas previously. When you look back at before him getting to the NHL, he had experience at different levels of hockey as well. So he has come back and, he's done what he's needed to do. And that is, get into an assistant coaching role, build the resume back up, be with a successful club, and I think that he's done that, addressing the challenges and stepping away in the way that he did and being as candid and honest about those challenges, I think was a step in the right direction for him. So that's also another great name that you can throw into the mix there. The Montreal native Jim Montgomery is looking for that opportunity to get back in as well.
Back to the Flyers specifically, there's a lot of speculation in our area this offseason, not just in the coaching search, but in the free agency, that the Flyers are going to try to find a way to land the local guy, Johnny Gaudreau. I know everyone seems to have an opinion on it. I flip on NHL Network. It feels like from night to night, depending on who the analyst is, they have a completely different perspective on this. So, Scott, everything that you've heard and seen, what are your thoughts on the Gaudreau to Flyers fever that we have around here?
Josh, this has been thought about for quite some time. This has been something that even traces back a couple of years from now. There had been some speculation, perhaps an overture here or there, that suggested that Johnny Hockey wanted to come back and play closer to home before it was all said and done. He has enjoyed Calgary. He's been pretty upfront about that. But look, I mean, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's the Devils even, who knows? If he could get back and play closer to home, I think that would be something that would entice him. But, let's not kid ourselves here. The contract and the money afforded to Johnny Gaudreau is going to be a big tipping point as well. And, right now Calgary's got their hands full because they've got Matthew Tkachuk, who's a restricted free agent that they want to re-up with for as many as 8 years and to keep him in the fold for forever in what could turn out to be a future captaincy type role for a guy like that in Matthew Tkachuk. They also have to take care of a couple other guys. Andrew Mangiapane is in need of a contract as well, and he's really in the prime of his career now, coming off a really impressive season as well. So Calgary's got some issues. They got to take care of some guys. They've got some defensemen, the Big Zadorov and Big Good Branson, their third pairing. Both, Josh, are unrestricted free agents to be as well. So Brad Treliving is going to have himself a busy couple of weeks, couple of months here leading up to free agency and beyond to see if, in fact, they can keep Johnny Gaudreau in the fold. Again, everybody's been saying the right things, But, just to be full disclosure with regards to this situation, this is something that traces back a couple of years ago, that Johnny Hockey eventually wanted to come back east and he wanted to get back playing closer to home. Again, whether it be Philly or New Jersey, they would be enticing options if the price is right.
If the price is right, do you think that which is the better one? Is it Philly or is it the Devils for Johnny?
I think it's probably Philadelphia. Aside from, again, adding a little bit on the back end, hopefully having Carter Hart have that consistent season from start to finish that we've been waiting on. And again, we've seen him make strides and bounce back this season to a certain extent. Still, in some ways, looking for some consistency. The Flyers on the back end, it's been well documented, obviously, without Ellis this season, except for those 4 games he played to start off. They were up against it that way. So they need to get better defensively. But Philadelphia, as we know, also needs some help in putting the puck in the net, too, with some underachievers this past season. So I think he'd have a better opportunity with even more responsibility, even more ice time playing in Philadelphia by way of comparison to New Jersey, because the Devils do have Jack Hughes, who right now is bordering on one of those guys, Josh, that is going to take that step to become a 100-point per season type guy. And that might happen as early as next season if Jack Hughes can stay healthy. They've got Nico Hischier, of course, up front. They've got the second pick in the draft coming up on July 7th in Montreal. And they're probably going to end up taking Juraj Slafkovsky, who projects to be a mini Yager, if you will, in terms of the way that he plays the game. So I think that the opportunity and responsibility that would come with being a Philadelphia Flyer, again, if the price is right, would make a lot more sense than the Devils.
Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at Laughlin SXM on Twitter. Scott, let's get to the guys on the ice. A couple before I let you go. I'm shocked that the Avs swept the Oilers. I really thought that when, you go with a backup goaltender, a guy that I would say the majority of people watching have no idea who he is. People know who Kempler is. He's either on your fantasy hockey team or you've seen him on your TV numerous times, right? You go with the backup, you think, oh, the Oilers are going to score on this guy, and you get to overtime, game 4, and the Oilers still lose. How did the Avs sweep out McDavid and Draisaitl and Kane?
I think that they were better. They were healthier. And believe it or not, Francouz gave them a little bit better goaltending than Mike Smith did. And that's saying something, right? I mean, Mike Smith, to me, in this series was a high-wire act. You saw the great from Mike Smith with some fantastic windmill-type saves. And you saw the worst from Mike Smith as a 40-year-old goaltender who's been known to overhandle the puck, turn the puck over at key times, make mistakes. Earlier in the Calgary series with Rasmus Andersson scoring that 162-foot goal, it seemed like on him. This was what you got from Mike Smith. You got inconsistency. So even though Pavel Francouz is a backup goaltender, let's not forget in games 2 and 3, he gave up 2 goals combined. Last night, he didn't play very well. I didn't think anyway. So much so that with these, 8 to 10 to 11 days off that Colorado is going to be in the midst of now, I think you take this time now and you work number 35, Darcy Kemper, back into it. I would start Darcy Kemper in game number 1 of the Stanley Cup final for the Avalanche. So I just think that the Avalanche were better. They were healthier. I mean, what Draisaitl was going through on one leg, and he still put up 4 points last night, was remarkable. I think when you look at Darnell Nurse, who played the entire playoffs with a torn hip flexor, you got to have all the respect in the world for somebody trying to, push through that. But he was ailing throughout this series, and he was, taken advantage of throughout this series. And I just think that the Avalanche were too deep, even without Nazem Kadri. This is a very deep team who can go 9 forwards deep to actually have guys that can make the difference for you when it comes to putting the puck in the net. And, oh, yeah, they had a great number 1 pairing. Cale Makar, Devon Toews did a fantastic job at least controlling Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in this particular series, too. Devon Toews was outstanding. He comes over from the Islanders, had himself a fantastic season. And Cale Makar is drawing comparisons to Bobby Orr. I didn't stutter when I said that, Josh. I mean, there are people there that are thinking that a guy like Cale Makar is going to be the best defenseman this league has seen since Bobby Orr. decades and decades and decades ago. So that's kind of what we're looking forward to here. He had 5 points last night to put himself into some exclusive company. But before the series began, I said Devon Taves and Cale Makar will be key in terms of their defensive shutdown roles that they're going to have. I think they did a great job under the circumstances against those big superstar players the Oilers possess.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Flyer fans sitting here. We could have had Makar. We could have had that guy, but no, we drafted Nolan Patrick.
Yeah, we know how Bob Clark feels about all that, don't we?
Yep. Bob Clark, never been afraid to have an opinion, that Bobby Clark.
Right.
But looking forward for the Avs, Kadri, it looks like he may, I don't even know when he's coming back. He may need surgery. If they don't have him for the Stanley Cup final, can they still beat Tampa or New York coming out of the East?
Yeah, I think they still do have enough depth. One kid to look for is Alex Newhook. Now, if Kadri leaves via free agency, which he's more than likely going to do coming up in the summertime because they probably won't be able to afford him, and he's put himself into an exclusive upper-class bracket based upon his best season so far, I think that Alex Newhook is that type of kid that will probably slot in and be one of the guys that they'll look at as a candidate to perhaps replace Kadri for next season. So I'd expect more from him. Like I said, they do have depth up and down the wings. Valeri Nichushkin has been a revelation for them in the way that he plays a complete all-round game. So it's going to hurt, pardon the pun. We talk about that thumb injury that he's got. Again, speculation is that he's had surgery on the thumb. And, although they're not saying he's definitely gone for the rest of the season, when you factor in that he was seen recently leaving the arena with a cast on before the surgery and now some surgery, you'd have a hard time thinking that 91's going to walk through that door anytime soon. And compounding all that, again, pardon the pun, is the fact that apparently Andrew Cogliano, they said today, Jared Bednar did, that Andrew Cogliano blocked a shot last night, and Cogliano is in the same sort of predicament right now as a guy like Kadri is too. So Cogliano's played so well as one of the graybeards, killing penalties for them, still speedy, despite the fact that he's played forever, it feels like. And Darren Helm also fits into that category after so many good seasons with the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup going back to 2008. Darren Helm and Andrew Cogliano have given them a little bit of something in terms of speed and penalty killing. If they're missing Kadri and they're missing Cogliano, there's no doubt that that's going to make a difference. I don't think it'll be the ultimate difference maker, though, in determining whether or not the Avalanche can win the Stanley Cup.
Now, Rangers Lightning tonight. Folks can hear the action. 7:30 p.m. coverage here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Rangers with a 2-1 lead, surprising to a lot of people. How does Tampa get back control of this series?
Well, first of all, I got to stay with the penalty box, Josh, because the Rangers have the best power play in the playoffs, and they scored both of their goals with the men advantage going back to that Sunday afternoon game. So, number one, if you're Tampa, be disciplined, stay out of the penalty box, and look for more consistency from Kucherov. Now, Kucherov, to me, at times has been the best player in this series. However, at times we've seen from number 86, we've seen some inconsistent play, some indifferent play, losing a check, turning the puck over at the wrong time, the double minor for high sticking on Zibanejad going back to Sunday afternoon. So we've seen sort of the best and the worst from a guy like Nikita Kucherov, which is very, very surprising because the last couple of playoffs, he's been lights out good, and he and Braden Point have really been the tone setters for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So Point looks like he's getting closer. That's a great sign for them, regardless whether it's this series or, in fact, them getting to the Stanley Cup final. I think staying out of the penalty box and seeing more of this from Nikita Kucherov could be the difference in determining Tampa Bay's fate here and going forward. I expect them to win tonight. Tampa Bay's coming off their best game of the series. They just finally wore down Igor Shesterkin, who looked like he was under fire and under siege continuously going back to that game in game number 3 at Amalie Arena. So I'd expect Tampa Bay to kind of pick up where they left off going back to Sunday. As far as the Rangers are concerned, you go in there and you feel like, hey, if we get this one, we got a chance to close it out in 2 nights' time in New York.
Scott, before I let you go, I want to ask you a bigger picture question. The television viewership has been up exponentially this year over last year. 58% for the Eastern Conference Finals, 70% looks like across the board. What are your thoughts on the viewership spike? Is it just because of the network it's on, because people are coming back to hockey? What do you think is the genesis of this?
Well, I think it's getting more eyeballs for sure, and I think there are a number of reasons for it, Josh. And I think that, getting the games onto TNT, getting the games, of course, back on ESPN after being away from ESPN for so long now, has just allowed people more access and easier access to these games. That's number one. Number two, I think, Josh, we have to realize that this was the most exciting season for the NHL since 1996 in terms of the increased offense. I mean, average games were 6.25 goals per. So 6.25 goals per game combined for each team. When you go back to 1996, we haven't reached those heights since then, back when the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup and sweeping away the Panthers in 96. We're also seeing that carry over into the playoffs as well. You know, we've seen these 8-6 type games. We've seen 9 goals from Calgary to beat Edmonton in game 1 of that much anticipated series going back a couple of weeks as well. So I think the game, as far as excitement goes, has likely never been better than this. The young players that are coming in now are more skilled and more responsible defensively. It's making for an absolute great product, I think. And again, when you've got ESPN and you've got Turner getting back into it here, Turner for the first time, and ESPN obviously re-embracing the NHL, and the NHL re-embracing ESPN, it's been a marriage made in heaven so far. It's just great to see that everybody, if they weren't hockey fans before, they're starting to become hockey fans once again.
And you got to give the Turner guys a lot of credit. It was kind of a cringeworthy start to their season, the way they handled things. But I think those guys really evolved and put on a good product as the season went on.
Well, I think so too. And I mean, Inside the NBA, Josh, for me is one of the top programs out there, right? Like, I know people that aren't even basketball fans that watch Inside the NBA because it's so darn entertaining. And I think that Liam McHugh and the guys that did the job over there at TNT, with Turner, with Gretzky making the periodic appearance, of course, and Paul Bissonnette becoming a star, Anson Carter, a guy Philadelphia absolutely loves still, of course, and Rick Tocchet, a guy that we also should mention is out there for a number of coaching jobs. They really did a bang-up job in their studio, I think, to really develop that show and mature it. So I think things are really, really looking up as far as the broadcast goes in the U.S.
Catch him on SiriusXM NHL Radio, the morning show. He is Scott Laughlin at Laughlin SXM on Twitter, and he joined us here to talk some hockey here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Scott, appreciate you jumping on. Let me pick your brain today.
Anytime. Thanks, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Rangers Lightning Game 4 tonight. Coverage begins at 7:30.
It's the Eastern Conference Final on Sports USA, and we're in Tampa as the defending champs are home in Game 4, clashing with the New York Rangers. The Rangers fly on offense with Kreider, Hedl, and Vetrano. The Bolts can strike at any moment with Cirelli, Palat, and Stamkos. It's Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final as the Lightning host the Rangers. Today, on your home for the Eastern Conference Final and Stanley Cup, Sports USA.
Coverage begins at 7:30, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
Zero down, zero down, zero down toward the purchase of any new or certified pre-owned Nissan at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan. Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ the Trademan can get you released even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Just because you don't see your Matt Blatt Nissan on the lot doesn't mean you can't drive it home tomorrow with zero down and 1.9% financing, even on certified pre-owned. And don't forget, AJ the Trademan will get you more for your trade, so you can drive a brand new Nissan. And of course, the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Only at MattBlattNissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $479 doc fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 7/3/2022. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You could unlock more cash than you realize from your home's equity with a cash out refinance today. In the last year, average home values have gone up nearly 20%. And with Rocket Mortgage, you could unlock thousands in less than 3 weeks. But you've got to act right now before rates go up. So when you're looking to unlock the cash in your home, Rocket can. Call 833-8ROCKET today or go to rocketmortgage.com to get started.
Rates current as of 12/12/21. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender license in all 50 states and MLSConsumerAccess.org. Number 3030. Call 800-490-1233 for disclosures and cost information.
Welcome to Allstate, where you can really control your savings. Because when you drive less, you save more with pay per mile. So you're really in control of your savings, only paying for the miles you drive. Yeah, life is good when you're in the driver's seat. Allstate. Here, better protection costs a whole lot less. You're in good hands with Allstate. Click, call, or visit allstate.com to save today.
Not available in every state. Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company, Norfolk, Illinois.
Everyone knows how beneficial therapy can be, but traditional therapy can be overwhelming, confusing, and inconvenient. When scheduling in-person therapy, it can be difficult to find the right therapist near you, and it can take weeks to get on their calendar. We knew there had to be a better way, and that's where BetterHelp began. I'm Danny, co-founder of BetterHelp Online Therapy. When Alana and I started BetterHelp in 2013, our mission was simple: find a way to make professional therapy accessible, affordable, and convenient for everyone. BetterHelp works around your schedule and lifestyle. You can connect to a therapist by phone, video call, or even text message. You don't even have to turn on your camera if you don't feel comfortable. And if your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch anytime with a click of a button, because BetterHelp is designed with you in mind. See why over 2 million members have trusted BetterHelp for online therapy. Go to betterhelp.com/personalbest and get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/personalbest for 10% off your first month.
Imagine a world where one app can deliver all of your favorite brands and more. With DoorDash, get everyday essentials like groceries, convenience items, and your favorite local restaurants delivered. For a limited time, get 50% off and zero delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more using promo code ORDER22 when you download the DoorDash app or go to DoorDash.com. That's 50% off up to a $12 value and zero delivery fees on your first order when you use code ORDER22. Subject to change, terms apply. Get more from your neighborhood with DoorDash.
So sticky.
At Hannah's Organic Honey, business may be sweet, but they need an e-commerce queen bee to lead the hive.
Okay, these jars are going to Jakarta. Oh, wait a minute. Does that say Jackson?
Indeed can help them hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by interviewing on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're speaking another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, wrapping up the show here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN as promised. I'll get to your guys' thoughts and comments. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Over on the text board, Steve and Ventnor chimes in. Steve at 609-403-0973 says, Josh, I like that they brought up Kingery and Veerling. Have to see what they can do. Kingery is making a lot of money. I think this is a good opportunity for him to reinvent himself as a major leaguer. No pressure to just go play. It's from Steve and Ventnor. A couple things. One, Kingery has to show that when they gave him that contract a few years ago, it wasn't just a complete bust. I remember the original idea for Kingery was, could he be this team's version of Ben Zobrist, right? Well, now's your opportunity to prove that you can still do that, because I don't think anybody expects Kingery to be a full-time starter anymore. I don't think that's his role in this organization, because he has been hitting well in the minor leagues. So he needs to provide some defense. He needs to provide some security on the defensive side of the ball. And then with Vierling, I don't know if I only need to see Vierling do anything. I just need Vierling not to play like garbage. This year, he was not playing well at all. I mean, you go out there have a 170 batting average, you should be in the minor leagues. Now he was playing very well in the minors recently. So, maybe there is still more there. I'm not going to get too excited about Vierling's 34 games last year, and I'm not going to get too discouraged about Vierling's 23 games this year. So, to me, I'm kind of unimpressed, shall I call it, with Vierling. Look, if Vierling can give you any production, that's great. I got the feeling, though, that when Wheeler comes off the paternity list, Vierling's probably the guy who goes back down to the minors because, without Camargo, you need Kingery to be a backup infielder at this point. Vierling, I feel another position he plays right from outfield is first base. So, but we'll see what the Phillies do. This is an important series in Milwaukee, and we'll be talking about it all week here on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks again to Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio for joining us. Rangers, Lightning, Game 4 tonight, 7:30 on 97.3 ESPN FM.